A millionaire humiliated a black waitress in front of an entire diner, but in one move, she turned the whole room, and his life, upside down. What happened next sparked a viral storm, toppled his career, and changed her life forever. Watch this story until the very end, you won't believe the twist. And if you love powerful, emotional stories where the underdog wins, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this one will stay with you long after it's over. They say New York diners have seen it all, but no one inside that little corner restaurant on 7th Avenue was ready for what happened that morning. The coffee was hot, the pancakes were sizzling, and Raina, a 27-year-old black waitress with sharp eyes and a calm strength, moved from table to table with quiet dignity. She didn't talk much, didn't fake smiles for bigger tips, but she carried herself with grace, the kind that only comes from surviving more storms than anyone could count. And then he walked in, Vincent Taro. Millionaire. Arrogant. Dressed in a tailored navy suit that screamed power, his Rolex flashing like a badge of superiority. He slid into booth 9 and from the very start, the air shifted. Slamming his coffee cup on the table, he barked loud enough for half the diner to hear. "Is this sludge what you people call coffee?" Conversation stopped. Forks froze midair. But Raina didn't flinch. She turned slowly, her voice calm and professional. "Good morning, sir. Would you like a fresh cup?" He sneered, leaning closer. "What I'd like is someone who knows how to do their job." A ripple of unease passed through the room. Raina's fists clenched behind her back, but her face stayed composed. She had been insulted before, but something about Vincent's tone felt sharper, crueler. And yet, she stood there, unshaken, ready. What Vincent didn't know was that this waitress was not like anyone he had ever humiliated before. If you think Raina's about to do something that will shut this millionaire down for good, hit that like button now, because what happens next will shock every single person watching. The diner, once alive with the soft hum of morning chatter, went quiet as Vincent leaned back in his booth and smirked. "You know," he said, his voice loud enough for every ear to catch, "I can't believe they hire people like you in a place like this." The words cut through the air like glass. A couple in the corner exchanged nervous glances. A man in a flannel shirt shifted in his seat as if ready to intervene. But Raina? She stayed rooted, her face calm, her hands steady at her sides, even though her nails pressed so hard into her palms they nearly drew blood. Vincent wasn't done. He leaned forward, his tone dripping with disdain. "You people always think the world owes you something. But you're just a waitress. That's it. Probably can't even spell customer service. My dog has more discipline than you." A low gasp came from a woman at table 4. Somewhere in the back, a fork clattered against a plate. The room felt heavy now, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Raina looked straight at him, her voice even but sharp. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to sit down and let me do my job." Vincent laughed, a cruel, cutting laugh. "Or what? You'll call your manager? I own people like you. Always have." The words hit harder than any slap, but Raina didn't flinch. Instead, she took one slow breath, her jaw tightening, and for the first time that morning, her eyes sparked, not with fear, but with resolve. If you want to see how Raina's next move shocks every single person in that diner, like this video right now, because the tables are about to turn in a way Vincent never saw coming. The diner was so quiet you could hear the hum of the coffee machine in the back. Vincent stood now, towering over Raina, his voice growing louder, uglier. "You think you can talk back to me? You should be grateful I'm even here." He sneered down at her, convinced he had won, convinced that this was just another day where his money and arrogance ruled. But then it happened. Raina didn't think. She didn't plan. Her body moved before her mind could catch up. In one smooth motion, she stepped back, pivoted, and raised her leg. Crack! The heel of her black sneaker connected sharply with Vincent's chin. His head snapped back. Gasps erupted from every corner of the diner. He stumbled, crashing into the booth behind him, dazed and humiliated. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Raina stood tall, her chest rising and falling, her eyes locked on his. "You don't own anyone," she said, her voice calm but unshakable. "Not anymore." The diner exploded, not in chaos, but in applause. A man in a flannel shirt clapped first, then a woman by the window joined in. Soon, half the diner was cheering, some even shouting, "About time." Vincent, clutching his jaw, stared in disbelief, his pride shattered. Phones were out, cameras recording, red lights blinking. The internet was about to meet the millionaire who had finally been put in his place. Raina didn't smile. She didn't need to. She turned, walked back toward the counter, and poured another cup of coffee as if nothing had happened. If you think this was shocking, like this video now, because this story is only getting started, and what's about to happen next will blow you away. Vincent struggled to his feet, his face flushed red with anger and embarrassment, clutching his jaw like a man who had just been knocked off his throne. "You're finished," he barked, his voice cracking with rage. "Do you hear me? You'll never work in this city again. Do you even know who I am?" The diner stayed silent, but the sound of phones recording was deafening. Every customer had their cameras up, capturing every second. Raina didn't flinch. She met his eyes, her voice steady. "I don't care who you are. You don't get to humiliate me." Vincent scoffed, but the fear in his eyes was starting to show. Then, from the far corner, a teenage boy shouted, "It's already online." Everyone turned. On his phone screen, the video of Vincent screaming insults and Raina's defiant move was live. Hundreds of comments were flooding in, the view count climbing faster than anyone could believe. Gasps filled the room as one customer muttered, "This is going viral." Vincent froze. For the first time, he looked less like a millionaire and more like a man who realized he was losing control. But Raina? She simply wiped her hands on her apron and walked away, her calm presence more powerful than any insult he could throw. The diner erupted into applause again, louder this time. Vincent's power was crumbling, and he knew it. If you think Vincent's downfall is about to get even worse, like this video right now, because what's coming next will turn this viral moment into a complete public reckoning. Vincent's face burned with humiliation as he shouted, "This isn't over. I'll sue you, I'll destroy this place." But before he could continue, the diner door swung open. A tall woman in a navy coat and heels walked in, her presence commanding instant silence. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on Vincent. "What on earth happened here?" she asked sharply. Vincent's jaw tightened. "Vanessa. This waitress attacked me. Call the lawyers. We're pressing charges." The woman, Vanessa, didn't move. Instead, she looked around at the silent crowd, at the phone still pointed at Vincent, and then at Raina, who stood tall and calm behind the counter. "Attacked you?" Vanessa's voice was cool, precise. "Because I just got 5 texts from clients saying you were shouting racist slurs in a diner." Vincent's eyes widened, and for the first time, he looked nervous. "That's not," but Vanessa was already pulling out her phone. She held up a video. It was the live stream, the same one the teenage boy had been showing. Vincent's tirade, his insults, and finally Raina's one move that had stunned everyone, it was all there. 2.3 million views in 20 minutes, Vanessa said coldly. "Do you have any idea what that means?" Vincent's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Raina watched, her heart pounding, unsure if this was real. Vanessa turned to her and nodded slightly, a gesture of quiet respect. For the first time that morning, Raina felt something she hadn't felt in years, power. If you think Vincent's world is about to come crashing down, hit that like button now, because this showdown has only just begun, and you won't believe what Vanessa does next. Vincent's confident smirk had vanished, replaced with the pale look of a man cornered. "Vanessa," he stammered, "this isn't what it looks like. I was provoked." No, Vanessa cut him off, her voice sharp enough to slice through his excuses. "You were exposed." She turned her phone around so he could see the endless comments flooding the livestream. "Fire him. Disgusting. Protect the waitress." Vincent's jaw tightened. He could see his empire slipping through his fingers, and the fear was written all over his face. Vanessa stepped closer. "If this goes any further, your stocks plummet, our sponsors pull out, and the board, who already barely tolerates you, votes you out. And you know it." A murmur ran through the diner. The customers, who once sat frozen in shock, were now witnesses to the collapse of a man who thought he was untouchable. Vincent's lips trembled as he pointed toward Raina. "She kicked me. She assaulted me." Vanessa didn't even blink. "No. She defended herself in front of an audience who saw every second of it. And I'd advise you to stop talking before you bury yourself any deeper." Raina stood there, still in her white uniform, trembling slightly but not from fear, from something else. Vindication. For the first time in her life, someone with real power was standing up for her, not against her. The diner erupted into quiet applause, the kind that grew louder and louder until even Vincent had no choice but to hear it. If you think Vincent's humiliation is satisfying now, like this video, because the next move Vanessa makes will turn this into the ultimate justice. Vincent's face twisted in panic. "You can't talk to me like this, Vanessa. I'm the CEO." His voice cracked, but Vanessa didn't even flinch. Calmly, she tucked her phone into her coat pocket and looked him dead in the eye. Not anymore, she said coldly. Gasps rippled through the diner. Even Raina's breath caught. What are you talking about? Vincent stammered. Vanessa's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile. 2 weeks ago, the board voted me in as interim CEO. They were waiting for proof to remove you permanently. Congratulations, you just handed it to them. The diner erupted in murmurs. Vincent staggered back a step, his confidence draining from him like water. You can't do this, he whispered, but it sounded less like a threat and more like a plea. Vanessa ignored him. Instead, she turned toward Raina. Her expression softened for the first time since she entered. I'm sorry for what you've been through. You didn't deserve that. Raina stared, stunned. No one had ever apologized to her for this kind of treatment, let alone in front of an audience. Vanessa glanced back at Vincent. You should leave before this gets any worse. And trust me, it will. Vincent's jaw tightened, but the weight of every phone pointed at him and the smirks of people he once looked down on was too much to bear. He turned and stormed out of the diner, his exit followed by cheers from the crowd. If you think Raina's life is about to change forever, like this video, because the most unexpected twist is still to come, and it's going to leave you speechless. The diner was buzzing with energy. Customers were still clapping, some recording, others shaking their heads in disbelief. But Vanessa wasn't done. She turned to Raina, her sharp expression softening as if seeing her for the first time. What's your name? She asked. Raina, she replied cautiously, her voice steady but low. Vanessa nodded. Raina, how would you feel about never having to pour another cup of coffee for a man like him again? The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Raina blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. I don't understand. Vanessa smiled faintly. I want to offer you a position with our company. Community outreach in HR. We need people who understand what it's like to be overlooked, people who don't back down. You're exactly that. The entire diner gasped in unison. Raina's knees nearly buckled. I don't have a degree, she admitted, almost apologetically. Vanessa shook her head. You have something better, integrity. For the first time that day, Raina felt her eyes burn, tears threatening to spill. The crowd in the diner didn't just see a waitress anymore. They saw a fighter, someone who had taken back her power in the most public way possible. Vanessa extended her hand. What do you say? Raina hesitated only for a second before nodding, her hand trembling as it met Vanessa's. Applause filled the diner, louder than before. If you think this is the victory Raina deserves, hit that like button right now, because her story isn't over yet, and the best part is still to come. The next morning, Raina woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing non-stop. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of notifications, and thousands of social media mentions, all with her name in them. Overnight, the video of her standing up to Vincent had exploded. 20 million views. News outlets were calling her a hero. Talk shows wanted interviews. Her co-workers from the diner flooded her messages with pride. You did it, Raina, one text read. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for all of us. Meanwhile, Vincent Taro's downfall was everywhere. Headlines read, Millionaire CEO humiliated in public, and board forces Taro out after viral video backlash. Raina scrolled through the comments, stunned by the outpouring of support. This woman is a legend, one said. Another read, she deserves everything good coming her way. For the first time in years, Raina didn't feel invisible. Later that day, Vanessa called. The position is yours if you want it, she said warmly. Raina's hand trembled as she gripped the phone. I don't know what to say. Vanessa chuckled. Say yes, Raina. It's time someone like you got what she's earned. That night, Raina walked back into the diner, not as the waitress people pitied but as the woman everyone admired. Customers applauded as she passed, and her boss, for the first time ever, said, I'm proud of you. Raina smiled, holding her head high. If you believe Raina is about to step into the life she always deserved, like this video, because her transformation from waitress to something extraordinary is just beginning to be by the end of the week, Raina was no longer just a waitress. She was a symbol. News anchors called her the woman who stood tall, and social media crowned her a hero for every person who had ever been silenced or humiliated. Vanessa invited her to the company's headquarters for her first meeting. When Raina walked through the glass doors of the towering skyscraper, she almost couldn't breathe. The lobby was massive, buzzing with executives in suits who all turned to look at her, not with judgment, but respect. Vanessa greeted her with a warm smile. Welcome to your new chapter, she said, leading her through the marble halls. Raina sat in a conference room overlooking the New York skyline, her hands trembling slightly as Vanessa slid a folder across the table. Your title, Vanessa said, Director of Community Equity and Outreach. Your story inspired millions, Raina. Now we want you to help us build something bigger. Raina stared at the papers, her name printed in bold letters. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with pride. She signed. And just like that, the girl who once poured coffee for arrogant millionaires was now sitting at the same table where decisions were made. Later that day, she called her mother, her voice shaking. I did it, she whispered. I really did it. Her mother's voice cracked with emotion. Baby, you were always meant for more. If you think Raina's rise from waitress to warrior is the kind of justice the world needs, hit that like button, because the next chapter will prove that this is only the beginning of her legacy. Weeks passed, and Raina settled into her new role with determination. She wasn't just an employee, she was a force of change. Every morning, she walked into the office, no longer in a waitress uniform, but in sharp suits that matched her new title and unshakable confidence. Her first project? A program designed to protect service workers from harassment and discrimination, something she knew all too well. Vanessa stood proudly beside her in every meeting, introducing her to executives who once might have overlooked someone like her. Now, they listened. They took notes. They respected her. You've turned one bold moment into a movement, Vanessa told her during lunch one afternoon. Raina smiled softly. No one should ever feel as powerless as I once did. If I can stop even one person from going through that, it'll all be worth it. Meanwhile, news of Vincent Taro's downfall continued to spread. He had disappeared from the public eye, replaced by headlines about Raina's groundbreaking initiatives. In diners, coffee shops, and restaurants across the city, service workers spoke her name with admiration. To them, she wasn't just a former waitress, she was proof that standing up for yourself could change everything. One evening, as Raina walked past the old diner, she peeked inside. The same booze, the same hum of clinking plates, but the staff stood a little taller now. One of the new waitresses caught her eye and smiled. Raina nodded back, silently telling her, "You're stronger than you think." If you believe Raina's fight is inspiring a whole new generation, hit that like button, because her most powerful moment is still to come. Months later, Raina stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. Cameras flashed, and the crowd erupted into applause as she approached the podium. Behind her, a banner read, National Service Workers Alliance, founded by Raina Brooks. She gripped the microphone, her heart pounding, but her voice was steady. "I used to think I was invisible," she began. "Just another waitress serving coffee to people who didn't see me. But the truth is, one moment can change everything, not just for you, but for everyone watching who needs to believe they matter too." The room fell silent, hanging on her every word. Vanessa stood in the front row, beaming with pride. In that moment, Raina wasn't just a woman who kicked back against cruelty, she was a leader, a protector, and a voice for those who had none. "This isn't just my story," Raina continued. "It's yours. Every worker who's been disrespected. Every person told they're less than. We are worth more, and we are done staying silent." The crowd erupted again, some cheering, some crying, and Raina smiled through the tears welling in her eyes. Later that night, she returned to the diner where it all began. She ordered a cup of coffee, sat in booth 9, and looked around. The same hum of conversation, the same smell of fresh pancakes, but everything was different now. Because she was different. And because of her, the world was, too. If you believe one bold move can change a life, and 1,000 more, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of stories that will inspire you forever.